Welcome along to the far west of Europe. In Lisbon, we're about to fly on TAP Air Portugal to Prague in business class. Now, the airline has undergone a 3-year transformation plan, redesigning the lounges and flying business class on TAP. There is complimentary access to the lounge. The TAP Air Portugal Lisbon lounge is brand new, but still really small and full even at midweek. It was pretty hard to get a seat. There's also a decent staff bar which makes excellent cocktails, including very large bowls of gin and tonic. There's also a nice selection of food and drinks and, wait for it, an automated wine dispenser. You just press a button for a glass of the finest Portuguese red. Actually great fun to try, even if I made a bit of a mess of it. However, it's quite apparent that the lounge is just not large enough to handle all the traffic at the airport. So I was quite glad when finally boarding was called, a little late, and it was quite a hike to the gate down a rather decrepit corridor at the furthest part of the quite crowded terminal. 3 queues for boarding, 1 for premium passengers and 2 others for Zone A and Zone B. And there's our aircraft. The TAP Air Portugal A320 I'm flying on had been fitted with a new cabin interior. It's got the regular Recaro slimline seat, but in the new TAP colours, and looks pretty smart. Each seat has got an adjustable headrest, and there are 2 power plugs for the 3 seats. The seats are arranged in a typical 2+2 configuration, with the middle seat left empty in business class, as is normal in Europe. It was a lovely day as we took off, and the view of the bridges over the River Tagus was fantastic, and also the slow-flowing waters which helped create Lisbon. Now, once we were airborne, menus were handed out on a small piece of card, and the service began with the distribution of small pre-packaged cold towels. It's a nice touch, and there was even a whole drawer of the towels in the toilets. Drinks were offered before dinner, with gin and tonic really hitting the spot as we headed out over the Pyrenees. There's also a pillow and a blanket on the seat, which is a nice touch for daytime flights in Europe. There were no trolleys for the drinks and meal service, with the crew coming out and serving each passenger in business class individually. Once the meal service began, the crew did pop back through the cabin, offering more drinks and bread and taking our orders from the menu. I was pleased to see that TAP served Sharp's gin out of a proper miniature bottle, along with a packet of peanuts. But given the heat and delays of boarding, I thought that the crew would immediately run around with drinks, but instead it was a full hour after wheels rolling that the orders began. Now, the main meal choices were black port terrain with sweet potatoes, you can see it there, or a ricotta and spinach pasta in chicken carbonara sauce. And I can report that the black port terrain was absolutely terrible. The good thing about it, though, was that ham, which sort of meant that I could make a ham roll, and by contrast, that was actually a delight. However, the actual port terrain was lukewarm, it looked and tasted terrible, and it was rather like dog food. Really woeful, one of the worst business class meals I have had in a long time. According to the menu, dessert should also have been pineapple sponge cake. Unfortunately, the crew just handed me a bowl of raw cherries and shrugged, saying it wasn't loaded. Now, as soon as I finished, one of the crew came around to remove my tray, but didn't ask if there was anything else I'd like to drink, so I have to report to pressing the bell and asking for a glass of port, and she seemed a bit surprised that somebody wanted 2 drinks, but shrugged and went to get it with a curt okay. Also on the menu were champagne as well, and since we've got 2 hours to go, I asked for a cup of coffee as well, which was very good indeed. But again, none of this was really offered. And indeed, on the menu, the wine list just offers selective wines, which doesn't help to determine what you'll be drinking. Thankfully, this was the one thing that the crew were quite knowledgeable about. Entertainment, of course, non-existent, unless you count a copy of TAP's inflight magazine Up, which isn't quite as bad as you think. So there we go, 2 hours late, and we're descending into Prague in the wonderful late summer sunshine. City looked absolutely amazing, and just a short ride away from the airport. So would I recommend TAP Air Portugal in business class short haul around Europe? Bit of a mixed bag, actually. Seat is nothing special. The TAP in-flight meals are miserable, and the crew just seemed a bit uninspired. The lounges were equally overcrowded, and yet in the end I found I rather enjoyed the experience. It's not great, but at least it offers something quite fun and something quite unusual as you fly from one end of Europe to the other.